In the U.S. stock market, the value of a dollar is decided by the Federal Reserve. But inside the walls of a federal prison, the dollar is worthless. Paper money is contraband. Gold is useless metal. So the 2.3 million people locked inside the American prison system had to invent their own economy from scratch. They needed a currency that was durable, portable, and had intrinsic value. They chose this, the instant noodle. You might think this is a joke. It isn't. The prison economy has inflation, it has market crashes, it has loan sharks, and it has arbitrage. In fact, the economics of a cell block are more ruthless than Wall Street. Because on the outside, if you go bankrupt, you file for Chapter 11. Inside, if you can't pay your debts, the consequences are physical. Today, we are auditing the underground economy of the American prison system to find out how a 25-cent soup became worth more than gold. For 100 years, the cigarette was the undisputed king of the prison economy. It was the gold standard. You could pay for a haircut with 2 smokes. You could buy protection for a pack. But in 2004, the Federal Bureau of Prisons passed a regulation that crashed the market overnight. They banned smoking. Instantly, millions of dollars of wealth evaporated. It was the prison equivalent of the 1929 stock market crash. The economy entered a recession. Without a currency, trade stopped. Violence spiked. The market needed a replacement, a new stable coin. At first, they turned to the mackerel fillet. Why? Because in the commissary, a pouch of mackerel cost exactly $1. It was the perfect 1-to-1 peg to the US dollar. Inmates called them macs. If you owed someone $5, you paid them 5 macs. It was stable. It was durable. It was the new gold standard. But then, the economy shifted again. As prison budgets were cut, the food in the cafeteria got worse. Prisoners weren't just looking for money anymore. They were starving. Enter the ramen noodle. At 59 cents a pack, it was cheap. But unlike mackerel, it was high in calories. It wasn't just money you could spend. It was money you could eat. This is what economists call commodity money. Just like how salt or cattle were used as money in ancient times. Ramen took over because it had intrinsic value. You can't eat a dollar bill. But a soup keeps you alive. And just like that, the soup became the new dollar. And the mackerel became the $100 bill. The economy was back online. Once the ramen currency was established, the prison stock market exploded. And the first thing that emerged was arbitrage. In the real world, arbitrage is buying gold in London for a low price and selling it in New York for a high price. In prison, it's buying a radio from the commissary on Tuesday morning and selling it on Tuesday night when the store is closed. The markup is insane. A radio might cost $10 in the official store, but on the block, that radio costs 20 soups. That is a 100% profit margin in 6 hours. You can't get those returns on Wall Street. But the system has a fatal flaw: volatility. When a prison goes on lockdown, the commissary closes. No new ramen enters the system. The supply shock is instant. Suddenly, the price of a cigarette or a stamp doubles. This is hyperinflation in a vacuum. In the U.S., the Federal Reserve prints money to stabilize the economy. In prison, the warden is the Federal Reserve. If he decides to ban ramen tomorrow, the entire economy collapses to zero. It is the ultimate regulatory risk. Smart inmates know this. So they don't just hoard soup. They diversify. They invest in services, laundry, legal advice, protection, things the warden can't confiscate. Because at the end of the day, commodities can be seized. But skills? Skills are the only asset that is truly theft-proof. So what does a 25-cent soup teach us about the global economy? It teaches us that money isn't gold, it isn't government paper, and it isn't code. Money is nothing more than trust. In prison, they trust the caloric density of ramen. In the real world, we trust the stability of the U.S. government. But the moment that trust breaks, the dollar becomes just as useless as a banned cigarette. The economy of the cell block is a mirror. It shows us that value is an illusion, and survival is the only real currency. If you want to understand how the world actually works, behind the headlines and the graphs, subscribe. Because the next crash isn't happening in a prison, it's happening right here.